Thanks everyone for watching. My name is Muna Larigat. I deliver growth mindset workshops to help you outperform your competition without burning out. And I'm hosting these resilience podcasts so I can nurture this space so we could have conversations about things that we're passionate about and spread the word about how to be more resilient, build more resilient processes. And we're going to get to touch on that in different topics over the next few months. Now, this first episode, stay tuned, is going to be very exciting to listen to. I am here to present you a recording of an exciting conversation we had live with Paola Recker, Yossi Vaknin, and Stéphanie Boudiacarnou, who are extremely talented professionals that I had the chance to meet over my last 10 years in customer success. And they got together so we could address how to build resilient processes for the customer success function. So Paola is an astonishing individual. She's so resilient herself. She was telling us everything about how she loves running. I've witnessed her achieve so many marathons and half marathons, and I know for a fact that resilience is in her blood. She came here to represent the company she works for, Paddle, where she heads the support team. She overlooks, I think, over 40 people. And in her approach, she's really bringing the human aspect of it when it comes to building processes that works for her team as well as for the company. Yossi is also a fantastic individual. I actually used to work with Yossi in previous company a few years ago, and he was amazing at bringing his technical background to the team and really bridging that gap. So customer success was not just only like left to its own device. We had so many different skills that were merged in the same team. And he had to experiment being part of a company that started so small from like 5-10 people and grew super quickly to 1,000 different employees. So this experience was really, really, really about how you can grow super fast, but also how do you adjust even faster. And Stephanie is the Director of Customer Success at Welly. It's a company essentially that does procurement negotiation for you, allowing you to save dollars so you can focus on doing what you know how to do best. And in her experience, she has been able to understand what it takes to build a team from the ground up. And one of the sentences that you will surely hear in the recording was essentially, how do you build resilience, but not at all costs? And the sentence that you will hear probably from there directly quoted is, resilience comes with grace. Resilience comes with transparency, communication, and by, yes, following processes, but doing the things properly. And I'm super, super honored to have had these guests coming and join us for that conversation.
Guys, I'm super excited to have you here today, and mostly because I know that you have like some similar experience and things, especially when it comes to working with startups, scale-ups, and companies in fast-paced environment, or working in fintech. That wasn't planned, just to say for the audience, but it just so happened that we're floating in this world. But something that I really have like some individual questions for each of you. And I want to start with Paola, and especially because I've seen you bring the best of the CS function, and expanded it onto the support team. Can you tell us a little more about these best practices and how it looked like?
Yeah. I noticed I haven't actually talked anything about paddle. Clearly, the long distance running was a lot more important to me than paddle. Jokes aside, paddle is basically taking care of the payment infrastructure for software businesses. So we're working with with businesses that are in the software industry that is selling their products online, and Paddle is basically taking care of everything related to the payment, to fraud protection, to tax, remittance, reporting, and so that you as a software business can basically just focus on building your software, because that's what you're supposed to be good at, and we're supposed to be good at payments. So yeah, we did make the little note that all of us in the fintech industry, and I do think that resilience is specifically important in this industry, because whenever you handle somebody else's money, you all know that's quite important for the individual whose money you handle. So for me, I've come from the CSM world as an account manager, and I think, I mean, the main difference between the success function and the support function, I would probably say, is a proactive approach that customer success managers have towards their accounts, really proactively trying to make the business be successful with the product that you're selling or you're serving, whereas the support function is more of a reactive function. So there's a different kind of relationships that you're building with your customers, and even though the deeper relationships that you're building in a CSM function, I do always say that in the support function, that's also something that we are aiming to get to, but obviously the exchange and the way you get to know the customer is very, very different to if you were assigned on a one-on-one and you have QBRs, quarterly business reviews, or any kind of other meetings with your customer. I think though, when it comes to resilience and when it comes to processes, still works very, very similar. Like the root is still the same, right? Like we're looking into resilience because that makes people happy, and because that in turn makes people more productive. And I think for me specifically, it's about the style of managing the people. Of course, I'm pretty sure we're going to hear from Yossi and Stephanie something about specific processes with the customers as well. From me, you're going to hear more about the way how to manage a team and how to enable the team to become the best version of themselves. And it's a lot about working with the team and understanding where's everyone's individual strengths, where's everyone's individual weakness, and build the team in that way that you can push the strengths and work on the weaknesses and get everyone better every day, and make them realize that they're getting better every day as well. And when you then in the flow, things like failure, things like adversities, things like something that you've completely never would have thought this would happen is going to happen. For sure, it'll happen. And I actually, funnily enough, I went on a run this morning. I was listening to a podcast from a Peloton coach, and she was saying fail is not a noun, it's an acronym, and it stands for, and I have to double check what it stands for, first action in learning. So it's not a failure, it's the first action in learning and what you have to do differently next time when you come at it again. And I think a specific example for me is because Paddle is in kind of a scale-up growth stage at the moment. I've been with the business now for 5 years, so we've been through the startup stage, and we're now sort of like trying to get a bit more mature. And when I look at the support function, when I took it over I moved from the CSM world into the support function, I took over 6 support agents. And at that time, I think we were serving around 2,000 customers with six people at that time. And now, 3 years later, the team is, I have to lie, I think we're about 20 people strong now. So we're much bigger, we've scaled much bigger, but we're also serving over 5,000 customers now, or 6,000 customers now. So we're serving more customers. At the same time, we've also taken over a lot more responsibilities. For example, we've taken over the whole onboarding journey for customers. So we're vetting our new customers. We needed to learn new skills. We needed to learn new things. And if I just look back at a linear development, we would have just been staying doing the same thing. We didn't need to develop, we didn't need to change, we didn't need to improve, we didn't need to get better. We could have just kept on doing what we're doing, and probably today everyone would be shouting about Pedal's support team on Twitter how terrible we are, because we would no way be able to support our customers in the same way as we did 3 years ago. So we had to develop because of all these changes that were happening. And there was one specific example that I want to bring up is we made the decision that we wanted to introduce a 2-level support team, because it was basically, there was so much about the product that people needed to know, and like the agents needed to know to relay that message to our customers and to support our customers. It was just too much for one person to know everything. So we needed to split it up a little bit into like, what's the easy stuff and what's the more difficult stuff. And then we split it up, like something that businesses have been doing for centuries, probably. Splitting up a team into level 1, level 2 sounds super simple, shouldn't be too difficult. Add a few more responsibility to it in the mix as well, and yeah, it sounds pretty simple. What happened in our case is we made the decision at first to test the waters using an outsourcing company, and testing the waters was great. We realized that it was working. However, we didn't get the results that we needed, and I was fairly confident that we can bring the team in-house and we're going to perform better. And I built the business case, and then we had this situation where we already started to getting these new responsibilities that were coming in, because we had onboarded the new team, the new responsibilities started coming in, and then we were in the situation, well, we have to hire new people, train them again, which basically set us back, and say goodbye to the outsourcing company at the same time. For anyone of you that is that knows queues or support queues, when they start growing, it's very hard to stop them. So the queue started growing and growing and growing, and me and the team, we looked at the queue every day, and it was just going up and up and up. And we were working I'm not going to say that word, but we were working really hard to try and get that queue down. And the harder we worked, we felt like the less impact we had. And so I needed to keep the team engaged and motivated and focus on the goal, similar to the marathon or half marathon that I was talking about earlier. Just remember, there is this goal, and this is why we're doing this, and there's a reason why we've decided to bring the team in-house versus to have the team outsourced. And we're going to get there. This is expected. We knew this would be happening. And then also at the same time, trying to bring fun back into the game. Like I realized we couldn't work harder. There was no point. We would be risking people burning out. So we introduced sessions during the week every Friday where we talked about, what did I learn this week? And that can be anything. That can be paddle related. And there was lots of paddle related learnings, but I've also encouraged people to just share what did they learn in their lives. And I've learned a lot of things about biology, about TikTok videos, about influencing. I learned a whole lot of things, so completely unrelated to the job. But in that way, I kept the team motivated. They wanted to come. They wanted to get to the Friday, and they wanted to come to this meeting, and I wanted to share what they've learned in that week. We also spiced it up a little bit with a competition that took the team out of this narrow tunnel where they were in, and we called it the Frosty Finish in December, where people had to reach a really high target, really high target, that normally I don't think they would be able to get to these numbers. But because it was fun, and because we had so much fun on the way with the topic of Frosty Finish, we had games that we played along the way as well. People actually did superhuman things and achieved these things, and that set us up for success for when our new team members who joined us at the end of last year joined and started to be onboarded, that we were in a good position to just be positive. We had a good mindset. We knew we're fine with whatever is happening right now. Queue's growing. Let's just keep on working. We're slowly going to be going back to where we have to be. And it took us a total of 10 months to get through this. And it took a whole lot of motivation from my side, from the leaders in the team, from every individual. But it was a lot about, and I think Stephanie mentioned this when she talked about her introduction, transparency about where we're at, what we can improve, how we can get to where we need to be, and take people on that journey and make them aware what kind of impact they have on this journey. Yeah, I think that's probably, I'm always being told that I'm hitting word count very quickly, so I'm going to pause here now and let Muna take the microphone.
No, first of all, wow, because I think it's quite a unique experience here that you've had, and quite a few companies go through that process, you know, where you test and learn what's going to be the best structure and the best way to structure your team. And especially loved the fact that you brought, you know, how to empower the staff as, you know, the foundation of these processes, as opposed to just focusing just on the task and what needs to be done, focusing on how you can get the people to be in that mindset to keep pushing. Working smarter, not harder, is definitely something I saw the audience was quite free to hear. Now, when it comes to resilience and building processes and building your team and getting your team to the next level, I know you'll see, I love that you mentioned your background, and I think that's something I loved when we worked together, is that you were able to bring together different perspectives, especially with the CS function, always having to fight between product, between solution experts. How did you experiment, like bringing your experience to the table to get everyone to collaborate and build something resilient to succeed?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. I was lucky in my career to work for companies that were very small. I was one of the first employees, all the way to acquisition. And when you work for this type of companies, you see the development of how you work cross organization to service the same purpose. And before we talk about how to bring the team to work together, we need to maybe focus a little bit on what does it mean customer-centric? Because customer-centric, that's the kind of the foundation of any work between departments or within the same group that kind of has different subgroups. For example, I manage customer success, but also manage the support and solution architects. And for me, customer-centric is basically, to satisfy and loyal customer. That's basically essential to the survival of the company. Without it, I always say that they're at the end paying our salaries, and without being able to pay salaries, the company cannot be exist. So that's basically for me, the customer-centric. That understand customer situations and their expectation. Loyalty and advocacy, putting the customer first, and basically, in a nice way to fight for the clients within the organization. Now, when you collaborate within the organization towards the same goal, which is make the client successful, then the work is much easier. Right, and if you say that the product is focusing on different goals than making the client successful, then there is a problem. Now, I started by saying that I was lucky to work for small companies, and that they grew quickly is because you see a lot of CEOs that says, yeah, we are a customer-centric companies and we care about our customers. But, when when you want to see the results, or when you want to see the actions, then this is the point where you see that selling more is much more critical than selling right. And I'm not in a position saying that we need to not to sell to any clients or we need to fire clients, but how we can make it right, how we can determine what is the right economic buyer, so what is the right client for us, and then by that to make sure that the client is healthy and it is retainable, which means that we can retain these clients by providing the same service, the best service, the client can see the value from the product, and that's much more natural and much more, I wouldn't say easier, but we as customer success can do our job and retain the client. So when you do it right, and it starts from the top, from the CEO all the way down, then it is much easier. When you as a customer success need to educate the company how to be customer centric, it is doable, but it is also present a new challenge, and you need to deal with how to educate the organization as well as how to deal with clients. And which brings me to talk about how we work between departments to kind of make clients successful. And as I said, it's just the same goal. We want to make sure that the client is healthy, that they get what they want, and they are successful with the product. And if you team up with other departments, it can make the process much easier. For example, efficient problem solving, right? If you collaborate seamlessly with other department, whether it's product, sales, and customer success, you can resolve issues much more effectively and efficiently. How to adapt to the market. We talked about adaptability, which I always have a hard time to pronounce this word, but bear with me. So how you adapt yourself to changes in the market and customer situation. So again, if it's just you, need to fight with the organization, need to explain why and how the market is working, and the landscape has changed, and the situation with the customer is different now, and it's not what happened 3-4 months ago just because, I don't know, the CEO left, the company is struggling, and you need to adapt yourself to the situation. So again, when you do it as a team, when the product understands that we need to find ways, and I'm not saying that we need to change the entire roadmap or the entire way we do business just for this client, but sit together and see again how, in the mindset of customer centric, how we can support the client and help the client to be successful. That's what we want at the end. We don't care if we are successful, in the customer success world, you care about how the customer is successful. Streamline processes, again, if you sit together with the right teams, and sometimes, you have disagreements, but you come up with a process that can satisfy both sides, then the client is at the end will beneficial from this process. And I love processes. I have kind of a love-hate with the processes. I always say we need processes in the right amount, and when you have too many processes, then it just creates more chaos. So when you work with the right teams to build the right processes, then this is the part where you can help clients better. And at the end, it's the morality and productivity. If you have a harmonious work environment and positive environment. It can impact the teams, the cross department, again, to serve the clients in the right and the best way. And it's also give you a competitive advantage because you know that this is a challenge. It's not a challenge just in your company. It's a challenge with other companies, and the question is how they are dealing with it. And if you deal with it in the right way and solve for it, then you have an advantage. So that's basically what how I see the work between departments and how to bring all of them to work towards the same goals. I saw it in one of the companies that I work for. We always had a clash with the sales team. Why? Because they sold deals that we cannot really fulfill, even we cannot implement. But you sell, you get a commission, and you throw a problem on the customer success side. And it was really tough times because the churn was pretty high. I think back then it was around 10%. Until the moment that we said, okay, sales, we love you, we want to sell similar to you. Your success is our success, but we also need to retain those clients. And without retention or healthy retention, it just doesn't sustain. And we work together to define processes on kind of review every deal, helping them to build a questionnaire, to ask the right questions and kind of check boxes. And by the end of this process, we saw the churn rate going down from 10% to 3%, which was back then very, very impressive. So sorry, I don't have any stories about marathons, but that's my perspective about cross department initiatives.
Yeah, and I bet that was a marathon. Working for a scale up definitely is.
It is, yeah.
I think that's definitely like something you say. When you're talking about how a business starts, and that's something I'm sure Paula and Stephanie can relate to, and some of the people in the audience. Like starting customer centric is within the culture, and that's what allows you to go in the long run. And that challenge between selling more versus selling right is definitely something that anyone can relate to, whether you're a solopreneur or having a startup or a multi-million business. It's always that challenge. If you sell right, and you can build a resilient sales process.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, that's the reason why I admire founders who are adding customer success folks to the founding team, or at least to the one of the first hires. And the reason is that even if you don't have enough clients to justify having a dedicated customer success, building the processes, building the infrastructure, having the team focusing more on customer success, it's amazing. And by hiring customer success person as part of the founding team means that the thinking and the mind of the CEO is customer centric, which is super healthy. And I was lucky to join April, one of the first employees.
That sounds exciting. And I know, like, Steph, how does it feel to build teams from the ground up? Because I think you've had like multiple experiences like that. How was it on your end, and how is it going at the moment?
Intense. No, but yeah, definitely. What Yossi was saying, I totally aligned with this, and I can recognize myself on different stories he was talking about. So the thing about startups is that definitely you are at the early stages of your growth and your development, so you're facing even more uncertainties, even more challenges. And so definitely resilience is crucial for startups. Startups are operating in a very volatile and unpredictable environments, right? So everything goes very fast. So you need to be able to adapt yourself and keep your customer success strategy on track, even though you have a lot of setbacks, a lot of maybe what we can call failures, even though I don't like that word at all. Because to me, even setbacks are opportunities, right? Opportunities of learning. So, but in startups, even more than in scale ups, is that failures or setbacks are inevitable because you are learning. You, for example, launch a product or a functionality that doesn't really meet everyone's expectations in terms of clients, or you're losing a key customer. Um, so you bounce back from there, you learn, and the most important thing is that you move forward and you learn from those again, I don't like the word, but mistakes or learnings, right? And this is where I come back to what was said previously, is how um, you have to maintain customer trust. Um, Customers have to rely on your product, on your service, and they have to see it as it is going to answer a need, solve my problem, or achieve my goal. And sometimes, definitely, when you have uncertainty or a disruption, uh, this customer trust can be challenged, right? So it's where you have this customer trust is so important, and you have to answer it as soon as possible. And we go back to this difference between customer support and customer success, because it's more about being proactive and ensuring that this trust and this loyalty is present. Um, but yeah, I think like one of the most challenged things that we can highlight is about the dynamics in startups, because obviously you never know what's going to happen. Startups have to be careful in terms of the financial aspects, because on Monday we set some objectives. On Wednesday, you may have fundraising, and so on Friday, you may have to change definitely all your objective in your strategy. And so, yeah, it's how you need to adapt yourself. But I think one of the most important parts is about how you maintain motivation and moral inside your company and inside your team, because it's definitely a roller coaster, right? It's you have highs and lows, but it's very important that you celebrate everything, even the small wins, um, and you practice self-care, you support your team culture, and all of this will maintain and sustain your resilience. Um, and one of the most important parts is, as always, we're talking about transparency and honesty, is I think as a startup, what you need to recognize is when you need help. And if you need additional support, um, it's important to be able to ask for it. To me, it's a sign of strength and not a weakness at all, sorry. So seeking for advice from mentors, from experts, from people outside your companies, even investors or anybody who can help you and support you, this is definitely going to help you out on in this journey. So yeah, I think if I had to summarize it, I would say when you are as a manager on a startup, uh, you need to lead by example. You need to demonstrate your resilience, set the tone to your team, inspire them through challenges, because sometimes, again, you're going to have lows. So, but you have to be very positive. Yeah, positive. And yeah, maintaining motivation is key, right? Because as a startup, it's very demanding, it's exhausting sometimes. Um, and yeah, and as I was saying, you're having lows, and it's important that you inspire your team and you stay committed to your mission. And the more you will be a problem solver, the more you'll have creative solutions to problems, the more you'll be uh, able to set that tone for your team. And you'll be able to build that team which will be able to face all those numerous challenges. And sorry, I lost I lost kind of what I was saying. You'll be able to face those challenges, and you will be building that team and be able to handle any rejection or failure coming up. And at the end, it comes to being confident and being trustworthy and being loyal. So that's why I was saying earlier, to me, resilience comes with grace. And so at the end of the day, if you're able to manage your resilience internally and as well as externally through your clients with grace, everything can go on the right path.
Wow, I love that. You know, when you said that during your intro, resilience comes with grace. That is definitely a quote that I will be using in many articles coming up. But I love the fact that I think there's a common denominator here, because we talk about processes, but in the end, at the heart of these processes, it is about the people. And it's about how you guys are making the people feel heard and give them a space to be in a healthy way. And I think that's how we build resilient processes, is by nurturing healthy well-being for the employees, but not only well-being in the sense, that holistic sense that I dip in all the time, but also in having a certain set of tasks, a certain set of processes that are not overwhelming them for that aspect. I have received a juicy question in the DMs, because I was already going to ask you guys a juicy question, but I like that one from Vita more. So I can also take it, there's no issue. But so the question was about the fact that there's a company which only focuses on the processes. But some clients think that it's strange where the person they have the closest relationship with cannot assist them immediately. So the question here is, sometimes the processes restrain individual employees. In that context, and also I'm going to give you a chance, Vita, if you wanted to raise your hand with the little button on the right to try to come and speak and ask your question. You can try for a second. But that's all right. So the question, to summarize it, is sometimes the processes restrains individual employees. How do you overcome that? How would you overcome that? If you were in a company where the processes come first, where you didn't have to build these processes, right? How would you go on about this? What's your take?
I'm happy to give it a first go. Not that it's we are a process oriented business for sure. I mean, we all have processes, right? This is the way how we work and how we function, how we work as a group, and so we need processes. And there's definitely processes also at Paddle that I haven't built, but that I have to follow because someone else thought it was a good idea to put this process in place, and we have to follow this process. And then I have 20 people in the support team that I have to explain this process, even though I also disagree with this process. But I've tried my very best to to defend my point of view and to understand the other person's point of view who implemented the process the way it is. Let me think of an example that I can share. I'm gonna come back to that, but there's definitely certain processes where there's complexity added to the support team, and they have to go out of their way to provide a workaround, even though there would be a very simple solution. And they know it, they're fully aware of that this solution is available, but they're not allowed to do this because the process is in place. People have to follow the process. And I think in this situation as a leader, it's really important to put your personal investment. If you've tried to deliver your message and you've tried to handle and negotiate and put your point of view into this process, but it wouldn't change, then you have to, in German we would say, you have to bite into the sour apple and have to just go with it and have to be, as a manager and as a leader, behind this decision that this process is made and that it's there for a reason. And that's exactly the face that you have to show to your team as well. Understanding that there is a process, this is why the process is there, it's why we have to follow the process. Also showing empathy and saying, I understand that might not make sense for you, but this is why it's important for these people, and this is why we have to follow these processes. And there's always, I think there's no company where all the processes, where every manager and every leader in the business is d'accord with each and every single process. So you will come across this in any kind of leadership position, that a process that you just disagree with. And it really is about you identifying that, okay, I understand the team will probably not like it, but at the same time also just uniting as the employer and as the business, and understanding this is why the business has to go that way, and this is what we have to deal with it, overcome it, get through it, just follow the process. And in other processes, maybe at the same time, try to make another process easier for the team if you can. If you have to announce this process change, there's a process change coming, or so, make something else easier so you can combine it with some good news. But yeah, that would be my take. We have plenty of these example processes, and I can't come to an example, but I know that you guys are probably all thinking of an example where you're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to make a comment, Paula, based on where you're coming from, but I'm not going to make it because this is being recorded. However, it is true. Get behind the process. That said, it's linking back to what Stephanie was saying about transparency. I think if you have transparency about where this process is coming from, you can then bring that transparency to the client to the extent that you possibly can, so everyone can understand why it's necessary. Yossi, you were going to add something on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it, Paula. It's well said. We have processes, and I mentioned previously that processes are in place to make things easier and much more structured. But when we work with clients, we also need to think about, can we break this process? And that's okay. No one will die. If this is one time and we can help this client in this specific matter, why not? Why not? I'm not saying that it needs to be on a daily basis, but let's, the way I deal with it, just to let you know, and especially when you're in a startup world, and every client is important, and you basically also learn from these cases. So we have processes in place, but if we have a one-off ask, I will try to fulfill this ask, or in my word, to break the process, but also in a nice way to kind of direct the client that we have a process, and this is what has been done is not following the process, but we are advocating the client and we want their success. So let's make sure that we follow the process. If you like it or not, you can, express your feeling. That's absolutely, we're living in especially in CS, we're in democratic environment. But at the end, we need to make sure that we have processes, and you're not the only client, and we need to make sure that we are making things much more easier for you at the end. So again, my point is, it's basically to work together with the client, and if it is something that we can do one-off, and through that to explain and guide the client that better to do it in a different, or we would like to do it in a different way in the next time, they will, sorry about the language, but they will suck it in. Sorry.
No worries, we can blip that out.
Yeah. So no, again, that's if there is a meaning behind it, people are reasonable at the end, so they will understand.
Yeah, that makes sense, isn't it? I think the other example that I received in the DMs was that, and I think that's like borderline between the relationship between sales and CS, that sometimes, you can't sell for a specific project or product or service, but because you're going to give something to the customer that is going to be a response or something that is going to help building the relationship, you can gain another project in the future, So what do you think about that? Because you're like, okay, we can make an exception. Rules are made to be bent. I don't like to say that, but it's the spicy thing about rules. To which extent we can bend them enough to serve a long-term purpose, aka an upsell or potential sale, versus be careful and set boundaries, for the present. And don't unmute all at once, just in case.
I think that would differ on the size of your company. Again, on startup, you have this free mind. No, not free mind, but you're like more able to do things that you wouldn't be able to do in a scale up. So sometimes you push things a little bit too far, and you would know that definitely that wouldn't work on a scale up. But you can go for it because you're like in a testing phase. So let's test it. Does it work? Doesn't work? Okay, no issue. But let's work for it. I have concrete example on one of my experience. I had this client who wanted to churn, right? And then we were discussing with him, and at some point we understood that it wasn't about churn, it was more about how he wanted to downsize the contract, right? But what he was asking for, it was like 80% downsize, so which is very impactful. So I wasn't very up for it because it's not about ego, but at some point you're saying, okay, I have a service, I have a ROI after that. So I wasn't really up for it. And actually at that stage my manager said, you know what, let's go for it. And let's say, okay, if you do it, we can do that, but let's, for example, we can do something creative, right? We'll downsize the contract, but in exchange, you can introduce us to 3 other clients, prospects, right? And actually, after 2 months, he did. And well, so the loss of revenue was definitely fulfilled, and we gained a lot of money. So yeah, I wouldn't have done it. And actually, I saw that was definitely a test, and it worked. So that's why I would say in a startup environment, you're more able to test things. So you can go for it, and sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, obviously, and you learn about it, and you go from there.
I love that. That is such an inspiring example to take risks, basically. You never know how it's going to go,
No.
but gambling pays off sometimes. I love it. Thank you, guys. I want to close this, which is like very quickly. If there's someone that can just make sure that you connect with each other, of course, follow and connect with our speakers, and let's keep the conversation going about processes, customer success, the human aspect of it. It's been super helpful to get your take on this. Paola, Yossi, Stephanie, you've been awesome. And thank you for the audience for being here and supporting us tonight. I think there's always so many questions that I'll be following up with in the future posts. So stay tuned for more. And our next event will be in a month on the 30th of May and will be Women and Resilience. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for coming. And what a great way to celebrate LinkedIn Live tonight. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. Bye.